What can art bring to knowledge of brain and mind? What does it bring to perception, thoughts, emotions, or multiple human and non-human intelligences? Well, privileged minds of other times, like that of my compatriot Wolfgang Goethe, had a clear response to these questions. He used to say in the Metamorphosis of Plants that art is a revelation of nature hidden laws. He also regretted that nobody wanted to understand the intimate union between poetry and science, and he prognosed that with time, art and science would make up a prolific and close alliance in the highest regions of the human spirit. Arts and humanities, much earlier than neuroscience, psychology, or computation, have deepened in different ways in the source of all experience and knowledge in our brain. Both have echoed what and how we think, feel, perceive, relate to each other, or move around. It is only that production of experiences and knowledge of arts and humanities is different in form and function from that of sciences, at least apparently. Many things make it different from each other, structures and scopes where they are in, and surely in terms of methods and aims, but what joins them, in essence, is to make visible the invisible and to contribute to a greater understanding and comprehension of the world we live in and the constructions and realities, in plural, our brain and our mind has contributed to the extent that some Eastern wisdoms stated already in the 4th century before Christ that with our thoughts we make the world. Or, in other words, we are what we think. All that we are arises with our thoughts. We could speak longer about this topic, and here and now, just as a brief introduction, I can only offer you a virtual itinerary to have a look at the works of the exhibition When the Soul Butterflies Flap the Wings. The title is inspired on the name given by Ramón and Cajal to neurons, referring to them as one of the most delicate cells of nature, and the flapping of the wings will one day shed a light on the secret of mental health. During our itinerary, I will try to reply to the questions that have motivated this exhibition. What can art bring to knowledge of brain and mind? And what does it bring to perception, thoughts, emotions, or multiple human and artificial intelligences? Firstly, and you're going to see this as soon as you enter the exhibition, works such as Synaptic Passage by Daniel Canogar gets us closer to the real scope of our neural network, made up by approximately 86,000 millions of neurons, and their prolongations would reach a length equivalent to the distance between Earth and Sun. It is not the same to know the data than to feel physically that something so small as brain, with hardly between 1,300 and 1,500 grams of body weight, may be so huge. So the understanding of scales and the relative value of the small and the big is one of the first experiences arts can provide us with. Regarding magnitudes, I have to mention the results of one of the most recent research works performed by Italian and German neuroscientists and astrophysicians, Frontiers in Physics. They have just revealed the common patterns between what is the neural network of a human brain and the cosmic map known as up to now, discovering striking similarities between both, regardless the fact that they are away from each other at a scale of 27 orders of magnitude. That is thousands of millions of billions of difference. Second work in our itinerary, Cell F by Guy Ben-Ari, that addresses the structural basis of the neural network and its communicative and creative potential. CLF is the first analog synthesizer, a musical instrument built up with the neural fabric in vitro of Benari himself. It is a good instance of an artistic project as a result of the collaboration with several labs of neuroscience in Australia and Europe, among them the University of Barcelona. This work is, in fact, a good example of collaboration between artists, scientists, engineers, with the result that we could have never imagined without the participation of the three parties involved. Due to restrictions of COVID, we have not been able to organize the live concert between musicians and neurons as we had planned. But we have brought here the analog modular synthesizer and the video where you can all see and listen to neurons when they communicate to each other. And having said that, the sound you will listen to when you enter the virtual exhibition, something very similar to the noise of a shortwave radio station, is the intracellular sound registry of a pyramidal neuron of the hippocampus, kindly provided by the Experimental and Computational Neurophysiology Lab of Instituto Cajal, CSIC Madrid. The next two works, Soliloquium and Post-Content Coherence, by Miguel Ángel Rego, address from different standpoints our neural pathologies that alter perception and memory. What is most important is that, as we have heard, or as we are going to hear in the next roundtable on art, neuroscience, and health, here, art facilitates understanding of people with special skills. Works promote our ability to put ourselves in other people's positions and understand their perspectives, difficulties, and also their value when providing experiences and knowledge different from what we, people without those special skills, can experience. To summarize, here art provides a socializing dimension that takes us beyond a clinical or therapeutic profile or manifestation. The next interactive installation, Membrane by Ursula Damels, addresses the alteration of perception. This work allows each visitor to interact with an artificial intelligence system to experience how the minimum changes of our space temporary parameters, normal ones, quote unquote, transform the vision of the world surrounding us. The French philosopher Jean Baudrillard used to say that machines represent the show, and I would add the patterns of our own thoughts. In fact, artificial intelligence has rekindled our reflections and debates on human intelligence, even intelligence of other species. In the exhibition itinerary, we will face different types of intelligences because there is not just one single intelligence. The work Machine Biography by Clara Boja and Diego Diaz looks into the learning process, memory, and predictive capacities of artificial intelligence. Their work leads also to an educational project in which both artists, in collaboration with two scientific experts of the Center of Artificial Intelligence of the University of Oviedo, will work with high school students studying at 5 different Asturian centers. During those interdisciplinary workshops, the students will learn to research and make up their own portrait or data selfie based on the registers social media have regarding the interaction of each of them with the system. This educational experience with a new format is possible thanks to the participation of Laboral Art Center in the European project Studiotopia Science Meets Art in the Anthropocene. The director, Christophe Jäger, from the Lab Gluon at the Museum Beaux-Arts in Brussels, is with us here today, and he will talk to us about this research and European project. Going back to our itinerary of the exhibition, the learning and communication process of two systems of AI is also addressed by the interactive work Speculative Artificial Intelligence by Mirk Schmidhuisen. The installation, in this case, allows us to perceive and even interact with the process of functioning of artificial neural networks through visual and sound conversations between two systems. As you probably know, this work has been produced in Laboral in close collaboration with the Artificial Intelligence Center of the University of Oviedo. Another interactive installation, Uncanny Mirror by Mario Klingelmann, also addresses the learning and memory of AI. This work does not reflect the way in which a mirror represents us, but rather how AI sees us, trained in a very specific way. It is also special the type of basic intelligence as that related to emotions. The robot arm called Amygdala by Marco Donnarumma has been trained in this. This device has been programmed to cut artificial skins following a specific skin cutting technique that is still being used by some tribes in Papua New Guinea, Africa, and Central Asia. And it is performed as a proof of resistance to have access to certain social positions. The collection of those skins manipulated by AI can be appreciated in Calyx. Another work by Donnarumma is the performative work Alia Zutai, protagonized by intelligent robots and dancers as well as the artist himself. His work wonders up to what extent new technologies may have an impact on the physiological, psychological, and cultural basis of human existence. Questions that clearly connect with the conference that is going to be given today by Mr. Rafael Yuste at 8 o'clock in the evening on neuroethics, between neuroscience and artificial intelligence. Maybe the kindest phase of this living together between human beings and intelligent robots is offered by the work Co-All Systems by Justine Oemert. This work addresses the relationship between human beings the machine, but not from a hierarchical approach led by power and submission, but rather it addresses a relationship of learning, mutual learning, based on empathy and respect. And we reach another interesting question in our itinerary proposed by the group Lara Mascotto with interactive installation Exo-Cerebro, Exo-Brain in English. The term was coined by the anthropologist and sociologist from Mexico, Roger Batra, in his study on brain anthropology. According to Batra, the exo-brain is a kind of extension of consciousness, omnipresent in form of our cultural processes as writing, art, music, and all kinds of symbolic and material structures, including robots and AI systems. This theory also is in the line of the theory by Baudrillard when he says that machines do not represent but the show of our own mental processes. In a different connection, and going back to the biological and introspective dimension of our brain, the action field of mental processes is especially visible in the work Enoia 2 by Lisa Park. The artist uses the signals of her own brain produced by her mood and mental states to visualize the vibrations of her neural activity on the surface of water. Taking into account that depending on the age, between 60 and 80% of our body is made up by fluids, and brain between 75 and 85%, we should wonder whether we should be a bit more careful in terms of what we think or feel. Some scientific works have also demonstrated that human beings usually have around 60,000 thoughts a day. Nearly 94% of those thoughts are repetitive thoughts beyond our control, and moreover, 80% of them are negative thoughts. To regulate these apparent mental hyperactivity, there are several options. One of them is offered by Emmanuel Golob with his interactive installation Doing Nothing with AI, not to do anything with AI. This work addresses the fact that our relentless mental activity is not a synonym of more productivity, but rather the contrary. You will check it by yourselves when visiting our exhibition in situ. I wish you could also experience how kisses and affections influence our mood. Although for that, we do not need to experience a work of art. The interactive installation and action called Kissing Data Symphony by Karen Lancel and Herman Mott in our exhibition, with all the documentation of their itinerancy traveling the world, has illustrated once again our condition as social and affective beings. But this work also addresses urgent issues related to the over-exhibition of the most intimate sphere in social media, data protection, and other ethical issues. All of them are unsolved issues. And still unsolved is an aspect addressed in the last work entitled Beyond Human Perception by Maria Castellanos and Alberto Valverde. The consideration of other non-human sensitivities and intelligences. In fact, their work addresses a research field that is very recent and very much related to our ecosystem, and more specifically, plants. Anyhow, their topic addresses some of the pending issues. Issues related to these other sensitivities and intelligences, quote unquote, that maybe we should start to understand. I will now refer to the multiple warnings and signals with which the environment seems to want to communicate with us, and I will leave it there. It is not sufficient to know how we feel and think, human beings, but also how other beings and living organisms think and feel, because we live with them, even if we want to ignore them. I thank very much the great effort made by artists and the technical staff and human staff of a Laboral Center of Art to set up this exhibition, most of it only done virtually or telematically. And thank you very much to all the institutions and companies that have made this exhibition possible, among them the Cultural Forum of Austria, Madrid and Wien, the Foundation Mondrian from Amsterdam, the Goethe Institute in Madrid and Munich, the company Kuka Robotica, Barcelona, and the CSIC, and as I said before, they have granted us with the neuron sound for our multi-user platform, done by two artists, musicians, and engineers, Enrique Tomás and Daniel Romero. Also, thank you very much for the generous collaboration and counseling of the Institute of Neuroscience and the Center of AI of the University of Oviedo, the Regional Ministry of Culture of the Principality of Asturias, and the program Creative Europe. Precisely, as one of the 13 members of the European Art and Artificial Intelligence Lab, iLab, we have been able to set up this exhibition and program activities of WinterLAB in Laboral, Center of Art and Industrial Creation here in Gijón, Asturias. And I welcome here Mr. Garfield Stocker, Director of Ars Electronica from Linz, Austria, the institution that leads the European initiative, European Artificial Intelligence Lab. And he will now explain to us the importance of collaboration between art and science, technology and society. He and Christoph Jager, Artistic Director of Gloan Beaux-Arts, institution that leads the project called Studiotopia, Science Meets Art in the Anthropocene, will introduce briefly the singularities of these European cross-border cooperation projects. I hope you enjoy this afternoon and evening. We wish you a great conference. I'm sure it's going to be very interesting by Rafael Yuste, and I hope you also enjoy the roundtable with the presence of Gonzalo Solís and Antonio Bahamonte. Thank you very much for your interest, your participation, and I hope you enjoy the virtual itinerary, and also I hope very soon as well the visit here in the Laboral Center of Art and Industrial Creation here in Gijón, Asturias. Good afternoon.
Hello, and thank you very much for giving me the chance to participate in this wonderful WinterLAB program, at least with a short video message coming here from Linz. I will try to keep it short, but first of all, I would really like to thank Laboral once again for this great and exciting collaboration. As always, it's really a wonderful experience, a big pleasure, and of such a high quality to collaborate with you. And in particular, I want to congratulate you for the excellent program that you put together, with a really wonderful, poetic and thought-provoking title, but even more so with an excellent selection of projects, of artistic projects, of collaborations between artists and scientists, focusing on one of the most important topics of our time. The WinterLAB is part of a larger European network program among many cultural organizations and initiatives here in Europe, the European Artificial Intelligence Lab, which is funded by the Creative Europe program of the European Union. And once again, it's a good opportunity to thank for this support, and in particular to thank all our collaboration partners for their wonderful work, for the programs and for their engagement. The topic of this Artificial Intelligence Lab, of course, is artificial intelligence, but of course not so much from the technical perspective, but from the even more important cultural and societal perspective. I think more than with any other technologies of recent history, with AI we recognize that the cultural, the ethical, the societal aspects of it need to be addressed much, much earlier. They need to be included in the development itself. They need to be included in the moment when scientists even start to think about further developments. We can no longer afford, like it happens so often with other technologies, that we wait until science and technology develops these possibilities, and then at a certain point companies take it over and finally introduce it into society. We need to come with our skeptical, critical analysis, but also with the challenges that we can bring into this technology from the cultural, from the creative sector. We have to do this at the very beginning, and this is why it's absolutely important to stage these programs and to make sure that we do everything to bring as many as possible artists and scientists into these collaborations. And this has been done really in a very exciting way here by your program, with this wonderful title, When the Butterflies of the Soul Flutter Their Wings. And sorry, but I couldn't resist to give this wonderful title to one of the GPT text generators. And I really got a very nice response. I have to read it to you. When the butterflies of the soul flutter their wings, their ripples of empathy and compassion form waves of connectedness that ripple outward and draw like to ocean to weave one in on another, and before you know it, the truth sets you free. The truth sets you free to forgive, to acknowledge, to move on. And then there's the truth of whether or not you are in the right place doing the right thing. Well, I have to admit that's quite something. It's not only almost nice poetry, but it's hard to resist to find some intention, some meaning in it. And I think this is a very interesting point, because of course it's not about checking out if AI system can write better poetry than we humans can do. It's not about using AI to replace our creativity, to replace something that is so profoundly human than creativity. It's rather about to use creativity as a challenge for AI. It's rather about using art, poetry to challenge our notion of artificial intelligence, and therefore challenge our notion and our position towards human aspects, humanity at all. And I think there is no other expertise in our society than the arts to really bring up the position and the challenges of being human into the further development of technology. And I think this is something that your program doing is really in an excellent way. Again, really congratulate you. I'm totally blown away by the program you put together, and thank you very much for this wonderful collaboration.
Hello, I'm Christophe de Jager. I work for the Center for Fine Arts in Brussels, and I founded Gluon, which is a platform for art, science and technology, also based in Brussels. Together with different European partners, we created the Studiotopia program. And the Studiotopia program is a scientist in residency program, which means that it gives the opportunity for artists to invite scientists from different fields to the studio or to the free space of the studio. The other partners are Ars Electronica in Linz, the Cluj Cultural Center, Lasnia Center for Contemporary Art in Gdansk, Onassis in Athens, the Free University of Amsterdam, and of course the host of today, Laboral. We created this initiative based on research of residency programs in the States and in Europe from the 60s till today. And we came to the conclusion that in most of these programs, artists were invited to the labs of research institutions or to the R&D departments of companies. And the goal of these collaborations was mostly the creation of interesting new works of art that made use of the expertise and the tools and the machines that were in the industries or in the labs. But we wanted to change or to challenge this approach, and also to reverse a little bit the hierarchies between artists and researchers. Because when you bring artists to another atmosphere, of course they don't feel so comfortable as they are into their studios. So we wanted to create a program that made scientists a little bit feel uncomfortable in this typical artistic environment that the artist creates and where he daily works. We also think that it is important that for the challenges that we are all confronted with, to speak about climate change or biodiversity, we need new collaborations between different sectors in life. And these collaborations, they have to be grounded into serious discussions. And artists, they are the critical antennae of our society. And we want to give them the opportunity, we give them funding to take the time to discuss. Discussions that are being well documented and that are available for the broad public. I also think that, or we also think that artists can have a huge impact on the world of science. And hereby we mostly refer to the concept of arts thinking. As we all know, design is finding a solution for a question that already exists. But arts thinking is more about finding the right question. It also alludes to the different skills that artists have. It can be intuition, storytelling, inspiration, but also over-identification, radicalism, fanatism, and fatalism. I hope we will see interesting results in 2022. And this will be exhibitions at the premises of different partners. It will be a catalogue which focuses also on the impact of the artists on the thinking and working of scientists, but also workshops for young people, for example by Laboral, and many other lectures and symposia. I thank you for following this introduction on Studiotopia, and I hope you a good follow-up of this activity. Thank you very much.